Hey guys, how's it going? This is Prithvi here from the Sports Box, and today I'm going to talk about Liverpool. Before I start speaking, I would like to make one thing clear that I'm not the biggest of Liverpool fans, to put it very gently. And but I promise you one thing, that I'll try my best to be as objective as possible and try to probably sum up their season so far and highlight a couple of points that they need to change in order to win the Premier League, because just 6 games left. They're trailing 1 point behind Manchester City, and they've got a decent run of fixtures apart from two fixtures which I will be discussing in detail. But let us first just go and have a look at the key players for Liverpool, and most of the strengths we're going to talk about, and a couple of weaknesses, because clearly if you're doing so well after 32 matches, you don't have a lot of weaknesses. But there are a couple of weaknesses which have probably led to Liverpool coming in second position, because there was a massive period of time wherein they were first and Manchester City was constantly chasing them. Especially the gap widened during the Christmas period when Manchester City did lose a couple of games to Leicester and Crystal Palace. So let's just start and discuss basically about Liverpool. So I think one good thing that Liverpool did in the summer transfer window was buying Alisson. He's been really good. He's been phenomenal in his shot stopping. There have been a couple of mistakes that he's made, but we're all human. And if you look at the entirety of the season, I think he's added much more solidity to the Liverpool defense. I know defense itself is pretty solid, but if at all the defense is breached, there is Alisson who's going to stop most of the shots that any other keeper would, unlike Loris Karius or Simon Mignolet, who actually ended up making a lot of howlers every season. He has had a couple of mistakes, especially that Cruyff turn against Leicester, but you can't really hold him accountable for that, because overall he's been really good and he's saved more than a fair share of goals. I think it was a very good decision by the Liverpool board and the owners to sign him up, and I think that Alisson is going to be a very good keeper for Liverpool for a lot of years now. And this is again a section that needed to be addressed by Liverpool, because they weren't blessed with the best of keepers for the past few years, as well as the best of defenders. And talking about defenders, let us talk about two defenders that have been vital to Liverpool's title challenge. Sorry, I call it defense because it is a title challenge which is centered around the defense. As much as attacking power they do have in their front three, I think the defense has been key, and I think the game changer for Liverpool that has led to them challenging for the Premier League title. I think Robertson and Van Dijk have been phenomenal. No disrespect to Alexander Arnold, but he's been injured a lot, and there have been a couple of games where he hasn't been as good as he generally is. But not to say that he's having a bad season, he's having a very good season. But I think that Robertson and Van Dijk are having a phenomenal season. A lot is being said of Van Dijk, I know, but I think that we must not underappreciate the importance of Robertson to Liverpool's defense, because I think the left back has been phenomenal. The way he's been going up and down the pitch, the work rate that he puts in, the understanding of the game, and the way he senses danger in the defensive positions, because it's very normal for a lot of fullbacks to be very attacking in the modern game, but he's one player who understands how to maintain a balance between attack and defense, which is very key for any successful fullback, be it Ashley Cole, be it any of the proper fullbacks who perform well in the Premier League. I think there has to be a balance between how much you attack and how much you defend, and I think Andy Robertson does a very good job in that. Virgil van Dijk, again, I have no words for the kind of performances he's put in, and there was a sigh of relief from a lot of rival fans that he did make that one mistake against Fulham because I think he's had a phenomenal season. And if you ask me, the two best defenders this season have been Virgil van Dijk and Wan-Bissaka. When you're talking from a defensive standpoint, I think Virgil van Dijk has been on a different level. I think by far the best centre back in England, and arguably the best centre back in world football right now, along with a couple of other players. I think there are not a lot of players who have the quality that a Virgil van Dijk has. So kudos to Liverpool, the Liverpool board again, to signing uh, a record transfer for a defender, 75 million. A lot was being said back then. I was one of the critics that it was a little too much. But if the player performs like that, I don't think any price is a lot. If you pay 100 million for Ronaldo and he gives you 50 goals a season, you're not going to complain, right? So similarly, I think Van Dijk has done what a Ronaldo or a Messi does for their respective team. He's made sure that irrespective of Lovren, Matip, whoever is playing alongside that, he's solidified the defense and he's done really well. Now, again, one criticism that has come amongst the Liverpool top three is the lack of good performances or probably productive performances by Mo Salah in the big games. I think he's been really good against the smaller, lesser teams, but the numbers haven't really added up against the bigger teams. I think he's not been able to provide an assist or a goal in most of these matches. I think he did do well against Arsenal, where he did provide a goal and an assist, but apart from that, he's been pretty average in the big games, which was a reason why Liverpool ended up finishing in the top four last season, because the defense was terrible. And in spite of that, Salah used to turn around games with his impeccable finishing, and I think the energy is still there. I think the overall game is still there, but he's been a little nervous in front of goal of late, and he hasn't really hit those levels. And he's been, to be very honest, I mean, I know there are a lot of Salah fans around the world, but I think he has been a little anonymous in the bigger games this season. Apart from that, I think he's having a phenomenal season. You can't expect him to repeat what he did last year. He can't score 32 goals again. That does take a toll on you. I remember when Ronaldo's had a 42 goal season, in the Premier League with Manchester United. He also followed it up with the 20-25 odd goal season, which Salah is doing. So I think, you can't really criticize him a lot. The only thing that I think he could receive criticism for is the fact that he hasn't performed well in the big games. I think Sadio Mane has really upped his game. Imagine Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah are on the same number of goals this season. I think 17 goals from Mane and Salah have been a huge contributor to Liverpool's current form, and I think Mane in the past few weeks especially has done really well, and he's sort of revived Liverpool after they did have a small slump against the likes of West Ham and Leicester. So I mean, hats off to Mane. He's been really good. He hasn't put in a lot of assists, but his goal scoring record has been pretty good, and I think that if he continues till the end of the season, especially his home scoring, he's shattered records for scoring consecutive games at home. I think he's been really good, and Mane is a player which was a little underappreciated last season, but after what he's done this season, I think he is, if not better, at least at par with Salah, especially in the last few weeks. And again, Firmino has been really good. He had a couple of injuries and he did struggle a little bit in the goal scoring department in the initial part of the season, but I think he's come really good, and in the last few game weeks he's been brilliant for Liverpool. I think he, apart from the goals that he adds, the way he links up the midfield and defense, considering the fact that Liverpool currently don't have a lot of creative midfielders, I think Firmino's role becomes even more important, and whenever he's not on the pitch, it's a different team playing. So I think Firmino, you could criticize his goal return or something of that sort, but I think that he's been really good this season. His overall play is, I think the most important when it comes to the attacking three, because he probably knits the attack in the midfield and he does it really well. So Firmino again has been really good. The only criticism that I have of Liverpool is the midfield, because I think that they bought Naby Keita to be that attacking force in midfield who could actually score goals as well as defend. Because if you look at it, his record at Leipzig, he was really good. I think he scored into double figures. He got in a few assists as well, and he also did the dirty work that is coming back and defending. But things really haven't worked well for him. He was injured for a couple of spells, and there have been a few things that haven't gone his way. But I think the Naby Keita, people And I think Liverpool fans, the club, the board, Klopp, I think they expected a little more from him. Not to say that his Liverpool career is over. He could obviously reignite himself in the next season, because I remember when Luka Modric actually came into the Premier League, he had a pretty average first season, but look at him now, he's a Ballon d'Or winner. So I think there is time for Naby Keita, but if I look at this season, I think his performances have been a little disappointing. Fabinho has been good. I think Fabinho took a lot of time to get used to the pace of the Premier League, so he wasn't played for the first 2-3 months, but he did start coming on and impacting games, and he did really well. One major criticism and complaint I personally have from Klopp, I don't know if the Liverpool fans agree with me or not. I think that he's underused Shaqiri, because I remember that game against Manchester United when he came on from the bench and actually destroyed United. So I think that, not that he hasn't, I don't know what goes on in the training ground. There have been reports that the likes of Origi, Lallana have been working harder than him on the training ground, but I think the impact that a Shaqiri has on a game and a Lallana has on a game is, there is a difference to that. So I think that Shaqiri should have been played a little more, and there are 6 games left in the season. He has a lot of gas in his tank because he hasn't played a lot of minutes, so he could really influence. I remember there are a couple of players who are constantly those players who are sort of benched for the first half of the season. I think Salomon Kalou for Chelsea was one of those players. He was not really in the mix of things in the first part of the season, but used to be very handy in the second half of the season, because he used to, when the other players used to get fatigue, he used to fill in and score a lot of goals. So I think Shaqiri could play that role towards the fag end of the season, and I think he could be very instrumental. Now, looking on to the fixtures that Liverpool have, if at all they need to win the Premier League, I think they need to win at least 5 out of the 6 games. And I'm being hopeful that City actually drop points, because if you look at City right now, they don't seem like they'll be dropping points. But if at all, in an ideal situation, Liverpool should be winning all 6 of the games. Now, I think 4 of the games are pretty easy. There are games against Newcastle, Southampton, Huddersfield, but 2 of the games I think could be a little tricky for them. Although on the flip side, they are very. The good part about them is that both of them are at home, but they do have a home game against Chelsea, and they do have a home game against Wolves as well. I think Wolves have sort of categorized themselves as the giant killers this season, and they've been really good against the big teams. They did knock Liverpool out of the FA Cup as well, but that was against again a little weakened team that Liverpool put forward. But again, we've seen what they've done to United, we've seen what they've done to Chelsea, we've seen what they've done to Manchester City. They actually did get a point on Manchester City, so they were favored by the referee a little bit, but yeah, that happened. So I think these 2 are going to be season defining games for Chelsea, for Liverpool, as well as for Chelsea, because I, being a Chelsea fan, have a lot of vested interest in that game. And I do remember in the 2013-14 season when Liverpool actually came to Stamford Bridge, and the way Chelsea fielded a weakened team and got the better of Liverpool. And a mass, there was a huge uproar which exploded after that game, and there were a lot of fireworks. But yeah, I mean, as a Chelsea fan, I would hope something like that happens, because not only because I don't want Liverpool to win the Premier League, because I think that Chelsea's top 4 hopes will also depend upon that game. So you won't expect Chelsea to come with anything less than 100%. So I think that's going to be a very tough game, and Wolves could be a very tricky game, considering that it is the last game of the season, and you already know that are you still in the title race or are you out of the title race. And Wolves, as we've seen, have been really good against the big team, so I think that could be a very tricky game. So if Liverpool somehow manage to get victories in these 2 games, and I'm assuming that they do put away the lesser teams away without a lot of effort, I think they could actually win the title this season. I'm not sure they will, but if they manage these 2 games well and they actually end up winning, or say winning one and drawing the other one and win the other fixtures, I think they're in for a chance, because Man City also face Tottenham and Manchester United. I know Manchester United are going through a poor patch of form, but I think they can do well as well. They can, because it's a derby and anything can happen in a derby. So I think that Liverpool do have a very good chance. But if at all I was asked who are favourites to win the title, I would say it's 60-40 in favour of Manchester City. But all of that could change because both the teams are in the Champions League. So again, squad depth will be tested there as well. And let's see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting end to the season, both for the title challenges as well as for the top four, and really looking forward to it. I hope you, irrespective of the fact whether you agree with my views or not, you sort of enjoyed, me taking you through the Liverpool performance this season and their title hopes. And if you disagree with me, please comment and please let me know. I think I've tried my best to do a very objective analysis of Liverpool, and hope they do well. I mean, for all the Liverpool fans, I hope they do well and I hope they win the league. But I think that if I look at it as a very pragmatic point of view, I think that Manchester City are still favourites, but stranger things have happened, and it's good for Liverpool, because whenever we've thought that Liverpool are going to win the league this season, they've sort of bottled it. So it's good that they are not. I think for Liverpool, it's better that they are not considered favourites at this point of time, because the pressure is not on them, and they generally tend to succumb under pressure. I think that game against Tottenham was again, a very good omen for them, and I think that they need to build on that. And if they demolish Chelsea, I think they're in for a very good chance, and it's going to be a very good end to the season. All right. Thank you so much, guys. If you like our content, please subscribe to the Sports Box and have a good day.